Welcome in to Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we will react to round number 1 of the NFL Draft for your Seattle Seahawks as they took Devon Witherspoon with a number 5 overall pick. Then at 20, the Seahawks go receiver with Jaxon Smith-Njigba out of the Ohio State. Let's break down these picks one by one. Let's start out with the first pick that the Seahawks made with Devon Witherspoon at the number 5 selection. Now, to kind of set the scene for you here for what Seattle went into with this number 5 pick. They were shopping the pick. This pick was not made until the 11th hour, until they absolutely had to, as the reports were that they were listening to trade offers, but ultimately did not find an offer that they wanted. And at the time Seattle made this pick, you already had C.J. Stroud off the board. Anthony Richardson was off the board. You also had at the defensive positions, Will Anderson, the top player in this draft, defensively was already off the board. It seemed like Jalen Carter was well in position to be the Seahawks pick, but then they shocked everybody going with Devon Witherspoon. Now, to Todd McShay's credit of ESPN, earlier this week, he reported that the Seahawks were completely out on Jalen Carter, but there were other mock drafts that said, hey, they still are going with Jalen Carter, that in fact they love with Jalen Carter. Ultimately, Devon Witherspoon is the pick. Now, you look at Devon Witherspoon, as Tom Downey ranked him number 1 in this class when it came to corners, number 6 player overall. Devon Witherspoon is a heck of a football player. He was outstanding last year at Illinois with 3 interceptions, 14 passes defended, 42 tackles. Devon Witherspoon was great, and I think without question was the best corner in this class. But you look at what the Seahawks had needs for this year, corner wasn't the highest priority by any stretch. I think Witherspoon wasn't the best defensive player in this draft, but maybe, just maybe, the Seahawks felt like that he was. I don't think it was a bad pick by Seattle, but it wasn't necessarily the best pick that they could have made in this position. Now, here's more from The Athletic on Devon Witherspoon. Witherspoon needs to walk the fine line of being aggressive without drawing flags, but his fiery play personality is a positive along with his cover athleticism, ball skills, and finishing toughness. He projects as an immediate NFL starter with scheme versatility. So that is the breakdown from The Athletic on Devon Witherspoon. So more, we'll get to the second pick the Seahawks made on Jaxon Smith-Njigba in just a moment. Before we do, got to subscribe to the channel. We were live for the entire first round of the NFL Draft on our Seahawks Today channel, and boy, did we have a great time. Myself, Big Tex, we were here with you. But we are not done talking about your Seahawks all this weekend. We'll be doing instant analysis, videos, and recaps on each and every pick the Seahawks make, as well as our grades. We're going to cover the undrafted free agents as well, all on the channel. You will not want to miss it. Subscribe for free today. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. When the Seahawks make a pick, within minutes, we're going to have a video up talking about those draft picks that the Seahawks make right here on the channel. Subscribe for free today for more draft coverage all weekend long. So then the Seahawks with their next selection at 20, they go with Jaxon Smith-Njigba out of the Ohio State. Now, Tom Downey has him as the number 1 wide receiver in this year's class in the number 20 player overall. So he falls right in line with that number 20 selection. Now, before I show you some stats and some other things, I want to give you some background on Jaxon Smith-Njigba here. This was a guy that missed most all of last year with a hamstring injury. Now, I have been a defender of Jaxon Smith-Njigba's for a while and said, look, I don't expect a hamstring injury to be an issue that lingers on throughout his time in the NFL. When you look at JSN, remember, he was on a team that included Chris Olave in company, and he was still the best receiver in that class there. I mean, Garrett Wilson, both those guys were first-round picks, and Jaxon Smith outplayed both of them. You look at the numbers of what he did that season at Ohio State, not this past year, but a year prior, he was better than both those guys. That Rose Bowl performance, he was fantastic. Now, the Seahawks, sure, they could have gone defense with a guy like Lucas Van Ness or Brian Bresee or Miles Murphy. Actually, Van Ness was off the board by then, but you get the idea. They could have done that, but ultimately the Seahawks decide, you know what? We have JSN here. We can't pass on him. And although the third wide receiver position wasn't necessarily the highest priority for Seattle, they had other needs to take care of. The truth of the matter is, look, you got DK Metcalf locked up long term, but you don't know how much longer Tyler Lockett can go. He's in his 30s now, and he dealt with some injuries last year. You have to start thinking about the future, and that's where JSN could come into the fold. More from the Athletic on JSN. Smith-Njigba isn't an elite size speed athlete and won't be an ideal fit for every role, but he is a crafty route runner with smooth, short area quickness and tracking talent to be a sure-handed target. He projects as an early NFL starter who is, at best, in the slot. And that's a great point. The Seahawks looking for a slot receiver. I got your guy, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, to do just that. Now, let's go ahead and go through and grade these picks. Let's start with Devon Witherspoon here. Is it the pick I would have made? No, it was not the pick I would have made. But it's still a very fine football player. And I think with Devon Witherspoon, compared to anyone else that was on the board in that situation, he has the least potential of being a bust. In the Seahawks' position of where they were picking at 5, not getting a trade, and with where they were looking at, Devon Witherspoon has the best chance of being a sure thing. And he adds to his secondary that already has the likes of Tariq Woolen coming off a terrific rookie season, Kobe Bryant, Mike Jackson, Quandre Diggs, as well as Jamal Adams. Watch out. All of a sudden, the Seahawks might have the best secondary in football. That's why I still give this an A, even though it wasn't necessarily the pick I would have made. Now, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, I'm going to give this pick an A-. JSN was the only true wide receiver 1 in this draft, as far as I'm concerned. And we told you on this program, talking to Keegan Renault of RPM Data, who does all the data analytics on these draft prospects, he told us a while ago that JSN was the only true number 1 wide receiver in this draft, the only one with a first-round grade. Sure enough, he comes through. But the A- here, why it's not a full-on A, is because not once but twice you didn't necessarily prioritize the needs that you had as far as that's concerned. And so the fact that you did it the second time, that's why I give this an A-. It's a good player. It's a good pick. I like JSN, but you had other things to take care of that were slightly more important as far as that goes. But I still like JSN. So with that, grade the picks. Those are my grades. Overall grade, I give an A-. What say you? A, B, C, D, or F? Maybe even throw in a plus-minus grade in there. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Grade the picks of what Seattle did for the first round here in the draft at this point. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be covering the Seahawks all weekend long with each and every pick, as well as our grades here on the channel. We got you covered. And stay tuned. It's going to be a fun weekend ahead. We're really just getting started, as Seattle has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 8 more picks to go throughout the weekend. Stay tuned. We'll talk about it more. We'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.